Hello class, and welcome to this Contra NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and Contra is one of the greatest side-scrolling shoot-'em-up games of all time, one of the greatest couch co-op games of all time, one of the greatest NES games of all time. I mean, the list of accolades, it just goes on and on and on. This really is one of the best. And so before we get into this game, let's do our handicapping of the difficulty, because Contra can be interesting. The difficulty can sway wildly depending on, well, in my opinion, and everyone on this channel's opinion, one major factor. So I'm going to do something very unorthodox and hand out two simultaneous difficulties for Contra. First, we have Contra with the spreader, which, if you have it, I'd say maybe a 4 out of 10, which might occasionally involve you biting down on your controller once or twice. But if you keep that spreader, you're in good shape. You're going to have a good day. On the other hand, we have Contra without the spreader, and that racks up the difficulty, doubles it, as an 8 out of 10, which equates on the frustration scale to writing a threatening letter to the developers, in this case Konami. So there you go. We'll talk more about the spreader as we go. Contra is a relatively short game, so before we get started, let's knock out a fluff fact early on and learn a bit more about this platforming shoot-'em-up classic. Fluff?
Hello, Professor. So I don't think I'm going to shock anyone given the difficulty when I tell you that Contra was initially released as a coin-operated arcade game, which was ported to the NES along with about a dozen other platforms over the years. The Japanese version, which was released on their version of the NES, the Famicom, a portmanteau of Family Computer, it featured an intro, a map between stages, and characters communicating to base via a radio. The reason for the additional content in the Japanese version was Konami used a special chip, which wasn't able to be featured in the NES version given that Nintendo manufactured standard boards for North America and European commercialized versions of Japanese games. As our versions of the games couldn't and didn't feature this chip called the VRC2, we got a lot less content and context in Contra. I also don't know if anyone cares, but the two heroes are named Lance and Bill, codenamed Scorpion and Mad Dog respectively. And looking in the instruction manual, they look a heck of a lot like Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Rambo and Commando respectively.
Good stuff, Fluff. I have to ask, though, something that always perplexed me was the prominent display of Mad Dog's smoking of a cigar on the title screen. You've talked a lot about Nintendo's censorship policies, so I just gotta ask, how did this make it in the game?
A very good question, Professor, and you are exactly correct. Number 9 on Nintendo's 10 censorship guidelines during the NES era aimed at removing content which would incorporate or encourage use of illegal drugs, smoking materials, and or alcohol. Nintendo does not allow a beer or cigarette ad to be placed on an arena, stadium, or playing field wall, or fence in a sports game. Very specific there. Mad Dog's cigar certainly qualifies as content which would be censored and removed as per Nintendo's guidelines. The reason it's still in the game? With some exceptions, Nintendo didn't really crank up their enforcement until 1988, meaning Contra just squeaked through.
Thank you. That has been bothering me for years. You have no idea.
Happy to help.
Alright, let's run the intro and get into it. Alright, let's take a quick peek at the controls for Contra before we get started. Pretty basic. We can crouch with down, move around, pause with start, fire the gun with B, and jump with A. This game is all about the guns, so let's take a look at them with Blaze. Alright, thank you very much, Professor. Let's talk about the pickups in the shoot-'em-up classic Contra. First, we start with the M. This is for the machine gun. Automatic turbo when you pick this up. Decent gun, love the turbo, but it's no match for the gun of the game, item of the game, if you ask me, the spreader. This, as the professor referenced in the opening, It really is a tale of two different games. Get the spreader, hold on to it for dear life. Literally, your life depends on it. Never look back. Then we have the fireball gun, which not that effective in this game. Sends in kind of like a spinning, just circles, basically, of fire which go across the screen very slowly. Then we have R for the repeater, which is kind of a rapid fire type gun right there. You can add it to existing guns to kind of change the fire pattern ever so slightly with a lot of guns. Some of them you won't even notice it, but there's your repeater. It's the only gun which will not replace the current gun that you have. That's worth mentioning. It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters.
First boss in Contra is a layup, basically. First, you want to neuter that guy on top, take away its defenses. Yeah, get that guy on top, then take out the turrets from the safety of the left side of the screen, and then just go to town on that last button.
All right, thank you very much, Gary. Thank you, Blaze. And we have a neat little trick Fluff has a neat little trick for you for these base levels. Fluff, what do you got for us?
Alright, this is a very sneaky trick. Hard to find, but you can actually duck while shooting up on this and the next base level. And this allows you to more easily dodge bullets while still taking out the targets you need to. Now to do this trick, you need to hold up on controller 2 while controller 1 is ducking. It's dangerous to do it yourself, and if you have a friend, then why not just have them join you as the second player? Also worth mentioning is that you can steal your friend's life by hitting A after you've lost all your lives to get back into the game.
Yes, it could be used in good faith, but sometimes in bad faith as well. A lot of friendships were broken by exploiting that move. But anyway, second boss, Gary.
Boss beater. Alright, the second boss, destroy the turrets before you take out that last button. Then shift between slightly off-center, left and right to hit the eye and projectiles before they hit you. Not difficult.
No, it is not. Thank you, Gary. Well, it's all relative with the spreader, isn't it? But anyway, we are blazing through this game, no pun intended, already on the third level here. I just say that because I haven't had to do too much heavy lifting today. This game really is just a quick shot. Now let's take a look at the Briggs notes finally, here on the third level. First and foremost, we talked about it at length by now. Live and die by the spreader. Just don't die, actually. Just everyone else can die. Get the spreader and live. That's the number one key to this game. Number two, scroll enemies on the screen. Sometimes they can be poised in interesting spots. By interesting, I mean deadly. And last but not least, like with any shoot-'em-up game, just try to manage the number of dudes that are on the screen. Clear out the screen as often as possible to limit the number of projectiles flying around. As we pick up our little shield right here. Speaking of scrolling on this level, it's, once again, this is where a lot of friendships were broken, basically, because it is easy, it is too easy, quite frankly, to scroll your friend, player 2, or player 1, whoever's moving at speed or whoever's being left behind. It's too easy to scroll them off the screen. And you can see the ground will give out from underneath you, basically, if you are left behind and the other player advances the screen upwards a little bit too quickly. So just keep that in mind. Keep that friendship intact by considering the slower player between the two of you. As we are at the third boss here, Gary.
Alright, the third boss, shoot the arms when the red bits, the ends of the arms, aren't near you. That way you can avoid the projectiles it hits, it sends at you, gives you time to react. And then, once those are out of the picture, you can stand just off-center to hit the mouth and avoid damage with any gun, even the original gun. So, easy way to easily take down the third boss.
All right, thank you very much, Gary. We're into the second base level now of the 8 levels here. Stage 4 overall. And now they've invested in a little bit more security this go around. Probably a smart move, except, hey, we still have the spreader, so bad news for them. I don't think any security company in the world can ensure your safety, your security, when the other person has a spreader. They're going to get in one way or another with that. So we had to come a bit short earlier as we made time for the first boss battle, but let's get information on the rest of the guns in Contra with Blaze. We have the laser, worst gun in the game if I gave out an award for that. It really is garbage in this game. They fixed it in later games, but in this one, avoid it like the plague. And then we have the non-gun pickups. We have the B, which somehow equates to a force field. This gives you about, I'm going to say 15 seconds of force field where you're invincible and kill anything you touch. And last but not least, the mass destruction pickup destroys everything on the screen. There you go. Thank you very much, Blaze. Yep. Laser, it's not a great gun. The flamethrower and the laser just so irrelevant in this game, especially in comparison to the spreader. They did get their act together a bit with the flamethrower in Super Contra, I want to say. It just created this constant line of flames that came out of your gun. Very cool, very powerful, very effective. Might be the gun of the game in that game, but we'll get to that in time. But for the time being, you can always tell when you're on the final screen in one of these bases, as they've invested in one of these fancy buttons to secure the boss room, but it goes down just as easily as the rest. Gary?
Boss beater. Alright, once again, like the second base boss, we want to destroy the turret before taking out the main button. And then prioritize the bubbles over aiming at the little Optimus Prime looking heads. That way you can focus on taking them out, and then if you manage to hit Optimus Prime's head in the background basically, then there you go. That's how you'll take it down. But definitely prioritize the bubbles, and like everything else in this game, a lot easier with the spreader.
Tired of hearing that line yet? The spreader is good. We probably sound like a broken record by now, but finish off Optimus Prime with this defensive and offensive weapon in the spreader, and we're on to the snow level. Now officially 50% through this game. Have to be very careful in the snow field, as there are a lot of enemies where they just kind of pop out, don't give you a lot of time to react. These guys that shoot the bullets, basically. I know everyone shoots bullets in a Contra game, but those guys especially don't give you a lot of time to react, so just be careful as you're moving forward here. And as we are moving forward here, let's go back to Fluff and get yet another Fluff fact on the classic that is Contra.
One major way to curb the difficulty in Contra is to use the famous Konami Code of up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A on the title screen to unlock 30 lives, which you'll probably need if you don't have the aforementioned spreader. While the code is arguably most famously associated with Contra, it first appeared in the scrolling shooter Gradius in 1986, and has appeared in some form in various other Konami-made games, such as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Metal Gear series. Not to mention it's been referenced hundreds of times in popular culture throughout the years.
Including our Video Games 101 intro, actually. Thank you very much, Fluff. Yep, the Konami Code is indeed a classic. If you do have all the turbo and all the little fun gun upgrades for your spreader at this point, or any gun, you can stare down one of these Mad Max looking cars right here. Road Warrior. And just plant yourself about 40% of the screen, maybe 35% from the left to the right, if you know the math I'm trying to get at here. Don't accidentally pick up a laser right now, by the way. That'd be probably the worst thing you could do. Fate worse than death. Well, fate equivalent to death, as you'll die very quickly.
Alright, boss 5. Very simple. The trick is to get immediately in the center underneath this alien ship and just shoot up. You can take out the flames and projectiles it sends directly down at you, and you'll take it out before any other side ships come and hit you if you do it just right. Very simple.
Yeah, that boss is laughably easy in that case, but the levels are getting a bit more difficult themselves, if not the bosses. The levels themselves are. This one's a little tricky. Just got a haircut right there with that bullet. These flames that shoot down are quite dangerous, so just be aware, be ready to react to them, like right here, duck. We have a shield coming up, which will allow us to get through probably the lion's share of this level. Doesn't help you when you have a second player, again. I feel like I keep saying it, but all these instances where friendships are broken. Just time it right, pick it up, but yeah, if only one of you has this and your friend doesn't, it's going to be a bad time for somebody. Either you for not getting the most out of your shield, or your friend for, I mean, I guess if you're peer pressuring them into moving faster than they can and they'll die, and then you can't really move without them anyway. So, anyway, boss time.
Alright, the 6th boss, this guy, he's very tall, but believe it or not, you can jump over him. First, you can duck and shoot to hit the projectiles that he sends your way, prioritize those, and then just keep firing basically and jump over him. Just basically make sure you hit that peak right in the center of him so you don't hit him, but you can clear him, and just fire and take him down.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, these boss fights are going by so quickly. I mean, if you have the strategy, you know what you're doing, you can take them out so quickly that we're finishing them well before Gary can even finish telling us the strategy. So, lots of these head-crushing dealies in this level to contend with. Be very careful around those. Get the timing right. Kind of like Double Dragon 2 a little bit, they had those. They're a bit easier to avoid in this game. Just as deadly, though. As you'd imagine, giant spikes that have a lot of mechanical force behind them will kill you when it touches your skull, but on that cheery note, let's throw it to Fluff for another Fluff fact about Contra.
In the Japanese version I referenced in opening, if you press and hold select and start before the ending credits begin rolling, and keep holding them down until they finish, you'll receive this message from Red Falcon the enemy, vowing his revenge.
I like that. Konami knew. Leave the door open for a sequel as we renew our vows with our beloved spreader right there. Doesn't do anything, it's just, it's the only gun I recommend picking up when you have the spreader. A brand new shiny spreader that works and kills exactly the same way. Note the patterns here. We just wait for that one to stop, basically. Don't get too ahead of yourself here as these spiked walls will crop up, and it's not a good feeling. We have one that comes up here, so be ready. And let's be ready for the next boss with another boss beater from Gary.
Boss beater. Alright, the 7th boss looks like a Nintendo controller D-pad, a little nod right there. Just shoot it. It's very similar to the first boss. You don't even have to worry about the other defenses in this case because you'll take it down before it gets any shots on you. Ignore everything else and just aim at the D-pad.
Yes, the bosses in areas or stages 1, 7, and 8 all have a very similar pattern to them. Not to get ahead of ourselves here now that we're in the final stage. About to take on the final boss. Got some alien-looking creatures here. Very popular in the 80s, obviously. So a good rule of thumb on this stage, again, take your time, clear out all these little aliens that are crapping out the wishies, spitting out the wishies as we called them growing up. Little dandelions of death in this case. It's very satisfying destroying these enemies for some reason. I don't know why. It's like the spreader just hits them in all the right places. I'm sure they would disagree with that thought, but Gary, final boss, take us home.
Alright, the final boss in Contra, I recommend that you take out the pods underneath the heart. The top ones are just your prerogative, basically. But once those bottom ones are down, you can blast away the heart. Just keep in mind if you don't take out the top pods of the creatures, which will be coming down, so take them out because they can still hit you even when you're siled up close to that heart. But there you go, keep firing away, and you have beaten Contra. Congratulations.
That's right, yes you have. Consider yourself a hero, by the way, from all of us here at Video Games 101. And the people, I guess Konami, because you've destroyed the vile Red Falcon and saved the universe. There it is, that line. Consider yourself a hero. Always like that line. I don't know, something about that delivery. But anyway, there you go. One of the best shoot-'em-up games ever made. A major influence in the genre for years to come, even to this day. And, of course, spawned many sequels, deservedly so. Which I'm sure we'll get to in time, but for now, please consider subscribing to this channel if you have not yet already. We do one of these classes every week. We would love to have you aboard, so. Also, don't forget to click the like button on this video. It really does help us out. And leave a comment. What are your memories of Contra? And maybe even let me know which games you would like to see a class on in the future. We are happy to accommodate, but that list is growing very quickly, as you can imagine. So, Also want to give a big shout out to all of my TAs today for doing such a great job. This is a fast-moving game. Had to cram in a lot of content in a very small amount of space, so they did a lot of the heavy lifting today for me, so thank you very much, everyone. Got to learn some interesting things about this game I did not know before, so had a great time. Hopefully you did too, and we'll see you next week in the same spot. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.